Hello, listeners, and welcome to the home of Howard Community College Athletics, where passion meets purpose and the fire burns brightest for our teams. I'm your host, Ryan Record, and you're officially inside the Dragon's Lair, your all-access pass to everything Dragon sports. From the fields to the courts, every season brings new stories of grit, growth, and pride. Inside the Dragon's Lair goes beyond the game. It's where we highlight the student athletes, coaches, and staff who make our athletics community strong. Whether if you're a fan, player, or part of the family, there's always something to cheer for here at HCC. So let's jump right on in with our fall sports recap with our very own Isaac Donsky.
Well, thanks, Ryan, and it's great to be back once again for the update. Fall sports have officially wrapped up here at Howard Community College, and kind of bittersweet, both for the fact that we no longer have fall sports anymore for the rest of the year, and also that some of the ways these fall sports season ended were a little bittersweet. We'll get into that in a minute. Let's talk about the positives. Cross country finished their season with some solid results, coming home 6th in the men's championship run up at Westmoreland County. The women came home in 8th place. Not a replication of the results that we had last year with the men winning the championship, but a good year for development for the cross country program. Got to give a special shout out to Samuel Venegas, who led the Dragons in all 3 races they competed in this year and consistently bettered his times with each race. So looking forward to see what he's going to do next year for the Dragons. Women's soccer wrapped up their season. Unfortunately, they did finish the season winless. Was not exactly how the Dragons had wanted their season to go, but we can say this. They managed to compete in every single game, and not a single player left the team at season's end. Everybody who started the season with the team was still there at the end, and there were even some additions. Everybody wanted to play for this team, and while it didn't end up the way they had hoped, they still fought hard, and they still played all of their games. And they did come close to a couple of victories. They really were starting to show some promise towards the end of the season, and we look forward for what's going to come next year. Head coach Amanda Elvidge has already begun the recruiting process, and the goal is to get this team, which, again, completed this first season with a majority of its players not being soccer players, being players from other sports. The goal is to transform that into a team made up almost exclusively of soccer players, and that is the hope going into this next year. I want to give a shout out to the Anne Arundel Community College Riverhawks, who defeated the College of Southern Maryland Hawks in the Region 20 Championship game hosted here at HCC with 10 seconds left. They scored the game-winning goal to win 3-2 in a thrilling contest. That was not the only championship game held that day, and we'll get into that in one second. But first, let's jump back to volleyball, who wrapped up their season. The Dragons went on a tear down the stretch. When we last left off, they had just beaten Frederick Community College, and it looked as if, okay, this team is starting to turn around. It's been a kind of an inconsistent season, but they're doing better than they did last year. And, you know, we talked with Coach Jay and Cheyenne and Ari, and the love was there. The dedication was there. And, you know, Coach Jay talked a lot about faith. God wanted that team to win because after that Frederick win, the Dragons only lost 1 game down the stretch and just went on a tear. I had called them one of the most annoying teams to play in Region 20 because they were always making every set hard. They became one of the most dangerous teams to play in Region 20 because they started beating the ever-loving you-know-what out of their opponents down the stretch. There was something about that team that was like, we are not going to go without making the playoffs this year. And as we got closer to the end of the season, it became very clear that, hey, the Dragons might actually make the playoffs. They could even get a home game. And the final game of the season came against Hartford Community College, the defending Region 20 champs. Hartford has a new coach. This season hasn't been as great as it's been in the past, but they were still a dangerous opponent. The Dragons won in 5 sets. It was incredible. Sophomore Abby Lease had 17 kills as Howard took down Hartford and secured a home game in the playoffs. They were the number 8 seed. Unfortunately, the Cinderella story came to an end in the playoffs because the Dragons faced off against Allegheny, a team that they had beaten in 5 sets in the regular season, and the Trojans had been watching film and doing homework because they took the Dragons to town. All 4 sets were close, but the Dragons could only pull it out in 1. And Allegheny just took advantage of Howard's mistakes, and the Dragons were bounced from the playoffs in the first round. It was a tragic way for the Dragons to end their season, but they still finished with 11 wins, which is a turnaround from 3 wins last year, which really showcases what this team was able to do down the stretch. And Coach Jay is confident that this team is only going to get better. This was year 2 of Coach Jay's reign as head coach of the Dragons, and they made the playoffs, and they finished with double-digit wins. There is a lot of good in the Dragons volleyball program, and we are really looking forward to see what's going to happen come next year. Okay, Now we got to talk about the sport I didn't want to talk about because it's still too painful, but we got to talk about what happened with men's soccer. When we last left off, men's soccer was the number one team in Region 20. They were scoring goals constantly. They had only lost one game against Mercer, but that game was against a top 5 team. And after that game, Coach Rob Ryerson said, okay, now I know what we need to win. The Dragons were ranked in the top 15. They were encroaching on the top 10. As the season continued, their schedule got really tough, and they kept taking care of business. They had a couple of players lost to injury when they faced Cecil College. Not a problem. We'll take care of them 3-0. Going up against a Division I powerhouse in Montgomery, not a problem. The Dragons did run into a little bit of a road bump when they got into a 1-1 tie with Hartford, and that was a gritty defensive game that had a lot of yellow cards. But that was kind of the trend going down the wire. You know, teams were realizing you can't beat the Dragons straight up. You got to get a little dirty. And no game was dirtier than the final game of the season when the Dragons faced CCBC Essex, the 14-time defending Region 20 champions who were trying to lock up the number 1 seed. The winner of this game would get the number 1 seed in the playoffs, and Howard won 3-2 after a late goal with 10 minutes to go from Kiar Sani in the middle gave them the victory. This game featured 6 yellow cards and a lot of pushing and shoving. It was nasty, but the Dragons got the job done. They rolled into the Region 20 playoffs and immediately were down 3-0 to Cecil in the first round. And everyone thought, oh, this is it. This is how the season ends. But then keeper Jonathan Sanchez found a dead rabbit in the net. It turns out that dead rabbit was a lucky dead rabbit, and the Dragons scored 5 unanswered goals in the second half and won. Punched their ticket to the semifinals, where Yebsira Tesfaye scored 3 goals all by himself to put away Anne Arundel, and that set up a rematch with CCBC Essex in the championship game. This game was a defensive masterclass. Both teams were scoreless through the first 2 periods. We had to go to overtime. It looked as if everyone was so exhausted, nobody knew what was going to happen. And with 8 seconds left in the first overtime, Essex's Alvaro Acosta scored off a free kick. And it was a brutal way to end the season. Now, Howard still finished ranked 14th in the country. Regardless of how it ends, this was still one of the greatest seasons in the modern history of record keeping for the Dragons. And we're really going to look forward to see what happens next year when the Dragons come back. That's pretty much going to do it for the fall sports recap. Winter sports have just gotten underway with women's and men's basketball hosting the Hoop Here Get There Classic. We're going to talk about that next month, though, because there is plenty of action to go over. And since there's only 3 winter sports, we can go into more detail. So the Dragons wrap up the fall. Some of the sports didn't end the way we had hoped, but there's a lot of good foundation building for what we're going to see next year. Anyway, this is Isaac Donsky, aka the big man on the mic. Throwing it back to you, Ryan.
Thank you so much for the in-depth sports update, Isaac. Next, we're excited to welcome Coach Elvidge from the women's soccer team, who's leading the charge in rebuilding this team in the off-season. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. This season was all about laying down a foundation, building culture, developing trust, and shaping the identity of what this program is becoming. We're glad to have you here to talk about that journey.
I'm happy to be here.
Coach, for those of us who may not know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about your background in athletics and what brought you here to HCC?
So I'm originally from California, born and raised, played soccer my entire life. I went to college at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the Prescott campus in Arizona. I got a scholarship there and loved every part of it. Probably about halfway through my college career, I started coaching, and that's when I obtained my first coaching license. Once I moved around and kind of settled out here because of my other job, I started coaching for a travel team out here. And I was actually approached by one of my previous players' parents when they heard that the women's team was looking for a new coach and said that they thought that I would be a good candidate. And I was like, I've never really stepped into that college role before. So I'm kind of looking to get back on the women's side anyway, because whenever I moved out here, the first 5 years I was here, I only coached boys soccer. So it was really nice to have that opportunity to get back on the girls' side. And that's kind of how I ended up here. I just kind of threw my name in the hat and hope for the best. And yeah.
Right on. You weren't just dipping your toes in the water. You jumped in head first. Here we are.
That's the best way to do it. Just jump on in and see how you survive.
Sink or swim, sink or swim. So as you know, this season was all about the rebuild and establishing new foundations within the program. So as a former college athlete yourself, how did your playing experience influence the leadership approach you've brought to this group?
It's kind of a hard question because a lot of it, I think, is what did I want out of the ideal coach as a player? Like, what did I want to see? What did I want to hear? How did I want to feel? And so a big part of my playing experience was how did I interact with my coaches growing up? And how did I want my team to interact with each other? because I didn't want to see the cliques. I didn't want to see a separation between player and coach. I wanted us to be a united family because we were all about to step into something that is a little bit more difficult than just simply let's step on the field and play soccer. We are developing something new. And I was very adamant about how I wanted to rebuild from the ground up. And sometimes we had to kind of look towards those off the field victories of what did we want to start with?
Right on. No, that's a great answer. And what do you want to start with? Just curious.
I really wanted to start with the personality of the team. What legacy do we want to leave behind? Some of my only friends that I talked to from high school and college were my teammates. Those were the relationships that got me through, the lowest points of my life, the highest point in my life. And they are my best friends. And so I wanted to establish this is a family. We are here for each other. We support each other, whether that's on the field, off the field, in the classroom. And that was a huge thing for me is I wanted us to make sure that we are all successful off the field too. I wanted us to make sure that we were academically eligible across the board and that we had every opportunity to succeed outside of soccer.
Great answer. And that's kind of the general consensus that I've gathered from all the other teams here is building that sense of family, looking out for one another to make sure that everybody strives to be their best. So, picking each other up when you're down and celebrating those high points are definitely what make being a college athlete special.
Yeah. And we definitely had some downs this season. So it was nice to know that we could rally around each other and build each other back up and just make sure we're all walk in step with supporting one another.
So from what I understand, your team this past season had quite a few players who were new to soccer.
Over half of our team had never played soccer before.
Crazy.
Yeah. So my approach was something completely different than I ever anticipated or imagined it could be. And a lot of it came from what are their natural instincts? Can they fake it till they make it? And I think a lot of it from the coaching standpoint was, okay, we're going to see a lot of mistakes and that's okay. What I want to be able to see is, are they coachable and can we coach them through the correct way to do it? And we were able to do that. One player, she was naturally gifted at defense. She knew how to rock a girl when we needed her to be the enforcer, and she knew how to get back. And so I focused on, okay, that was great. Now, once you've won the ball, let's try and pass it to someone on our team. And just incrementally every week working on adding a little more to our flow of play.
Yeah. And that's kind of what Isaac was telling me is he was able to see those building blocks take shape. And by the end of the season, y'all were really becoming a more cohesive team. So now that the season's finally wrapped up, what are your plans moving forward into next year? Are there any specific skills, strategies, or areas of growth that you're already focusing on?
Yeah. Actually, right before I came over here, I just got another girl to agree to play for me next year. We're definitely working hard at recruiting this season to make sure that not only are we filling some of the gaps that aren't returning next year, but we're able to grow as, a program and as a team. Girls that are going to fit the personalities of my current players, because I do think that that is a huge piece of it is you have to have players that are, compatible. So I'm focusing a lot on, okay, what is their soccer IQ? How do they react when something bad happens on the field? Can they fight through adversity? And can they be resilient? Those are the big four that I'm looking for right now, because I think that's something that was a comment to me throughout the entire season by refs, by coaches, by people watching. It was always your team and you and your coaching staff are so resilient for going through this entire season. And that's the start of our legacy is we have to be resilient and go through it together to be a good team. We have to fight that resiliency and that adversity to be successful.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of recruitment, what would you say to someone who might be interested in joining your program?
I would say be ready to work. Once you make that commitment, it's not just a commitment for you, but it's a commitment for everyone on that field with you. And you have to want it. I can't put that drive in you. I can help support your drive, but I can't force you to be there. So when you reach out to me, just know that you have to be committed. If you're not going to be committed, it's going to hurt the entire team, not just you, not just me. I would say just be prepared for the time commitment, the emotional commitment, and be willing to put in the work.
Coach Elvidge, thank you so much for taking the time to come inside the Dragon's Lair with us today. And we're excited to see how the program continues to grow.
Thank you.
In our next segment, The Heart of a Dragon, we get to highlight two exceptional players from the men's soccer team as they reflect on their season and the moments that defined it. Today, we're joined by
Jonathan Sanchez
and
Brian Barrientos
from the men's soccer team. Jonathan and Bryan, welcome to Inside the Dragon's Lair.
Thank you for having us. It's really exciting to be here.
And it's a privilege to have you all. So, looking back, how would you all describe this past season from your perspective, and what stood out about the journey that you and your teammates took?
One thing that really stood out to me as a guy who's returning from last year, who's part of the rebuild here at HCC, last year, Coach Rob really put a team as quick as he could. And he did make a pretty good squad. Unfortunately, we weren't able to give the results we wanted to show, but we still managed to have a good season. But this season, completely different. I mean, since day one, all the boys we're coming from different places. We have internationals coming in, we have local players coming in, and sometimes from our local players, we might not have been playing together, but we would always play against each other. So now playing together, we each brought more of a competitiveness to the team. And I mean, it was just much more than just soccer to us. It was more like a family. I mean, one thing that really stood out to me is that I believe in faith. And one of my other teammates, Donnie as well, he's really deep in his faith. And I mean, little by little, we were sharing that to our teammates. And out of nowhere, we started doing Bible studies, praying before our games. And even Coach Rob would come in to pray with us. And just everyone being there, that just made it show that we were really a family. Another thing Jonathan can tell you is that, Coach Rob was telling us that he never had a team that would just blast music everywhere on the bus or wherever. And Coach Rob's been coaching everywhere. He's been coaching college, D1 level, professionally, and he just never had that. So,
and I actually think we actually got a lot closer because of the music as well, a lot closer. First day I brought it, I started playing music, everybody started talking to each other. We got along the way, so yeah.
All right, so balancing academics with practice, travel, and games, it's not an easy thing to do. How do you all manage that balance throughout the season, and what advice would you share with other student athletes that might struggle with that?
Some advice I would say, especially in away games, we usually take a bus. I would say take your laptop and do as much homework as you can.
I think just one thing that I learned is that you really have to stay in touch with your teachers because they don't know what's going on with you. I work with my dad in a family business. So if I'm not here at practice, I'm working. After practice, once I get home, that's my time to do homework. So catch up. So I guess letting your teachers know, hey, can I get an extra day? Hey, I got this and this going on. Teachers here are very understanding, So that's just some advice. Just reach out to your teachers.
Yeah. I know Coach Rob really prides himself on his team doing well academically. That was something that he told me last month. But yeah, every season has those key moments, a game, a play, something even off the field that really just sticks with you. What was that moment for each of you this season?
I definitely think the first playoff game against Cecil, first half we were losing 3-0. But second half we came together as a team. We instead of yelling at each other, we helped each other. First 5 minutes we scored. We kept the momentum going and tied up. Eventually, the final score was 5-3. So definitely, I think that's a key moment in the season that I think it's really special.
I dig.
Yeah.
It's tough to come back from 3-0 at halftime. Yeah. Talk about really rallying. And that was the first playoff game?
Yes, that was the first playoff game.
I mean, y'all came in with really lofty expectations. I know you lost an OT in the championship. Yeah. And that must have stung. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there's haters out there, to prove them all wrong, that's a strong statement to make. So I like that as a key moment for sure. Yeah. What would you say?
Key moment, I think, would be our first actual real test when we played Mercer. They've been nationally ranked this whole year. They're always in top 5. And, I mean, we all wanted to go in that game and win. Fortunately, the game didn't go our way. But that was really a lesson to us. It just taught us that we just got to keep working. There's really good teams, but we just needed that little bit of reality check. That really helped us come as a team, humble ourselves, and then pick up for the remaining of the season and just keep going because it's not easy to bounce back after a loss like that.
And that was y'all's only loss in the regular season, right?
Yeah.
Only loss regular season.
Hey, man, like you said, you got to humble yourself, and it reinvigorated you. Like you knew where you had to improve, and that was a tough squad.
Yeah.
So you knew you could compete with the best at the same time. So,
Right.
All right. So looking back now, what part of your game or even your mindset do you think grew the most this season?
I think coming together over the season, as well as the passion for the team. Those two combined, we won practically every single game. Yeah, I think it's definitely passion and family.
I came in this season thinking that it's going to be my last season playing competitively. You know, I was going to hang up the boots. But after just playing with these guys, man, just how far we've made it, I just want more. Like, I want to keep playing these games at the highest level. So my competitiveness and passion definitely grew. But then also my leadership. They chose me as a captain, and I could see myself a little bit as a leader, but I thought there were better options, like our Serbian, a lot of experience. I mean, he's a coach and everything. He's a great captain as well. But he came up to me in one of our toughest games. He was like, you can't drop your head. You know, this team revolves on you. Like, if you drop your head, the whole team will do that. And then if you keep it going, the whole team's going to do that. And I noticed that as the season was going. So definitely my leadership grew a lot, especially in our Cecil game, because 3-0 down at half, no one knew what was happening. We had guys yelling at each other because we couldn't believe it at all. So, I mean, at halftime, the speech, Coach Rob could only say so much. Like, we ourselves had to get each other going, you know. That's where I have to step up as a captain and be like, all right, guys, you know, this might be the last time we play together. We might as well have fun. And I was just trying to get the boys going. I mean, just like how Peja had told me that they all like feed off of my energy, and they really did. Like, everybody lifted up their head, and they were actually in a better mindset where like they believed. And then first 5 minutes just showed a big difference.
Yeah, bro. Definitely.
So
Mindset's half the battle.
Yeah.
Don't hang your head, dude.
Yeah.
Like, hold it high, even when you're down. Like,
even when we're down,
it's not over yet. The clock says 0 or 90 yet.
Yeah.
So as you all look ahead, what are some personal goals that you're carrying? And what do you hope to continue building with the team in the future? And I guess that's more so of a question for you, Jonathan. Like, what are you looking to do with this team next season?
I want to win regionals. That's the main goal. And this year, I got a second team all region, and my goal is to make it first team all region. So yeah, those two are definitely my goals, and hopefully get scouted from coaches and all that, and see where my future goes for soccer.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Bryan, what are some of your personal goals moving forward?
I just want to find a good school that's a good fit, but to continue playing at the highest level, just be an example, continue being an example to these boys that if I can go somewhere and just set that bar for them, they have to exceed the bar that I'm leaving them. That's what I want to leave at least to them. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
So like bringing that positive mentality in wherever you go will always go a long way, dude. And last question, if you could send a message to next year's incoming players, what would you want to pass along to them?
Just have fun, to be honest. Get to know at least some of your teammates so you can get closer. When it comes to games, lock in, pray with us, and just to win, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Winning is fun.
Yeah, winning is fun, yeah. So
I'd say just feel welcomed. I mean, these boys are going to welcome you guys. And I mean, if you're here, it's because you're definitely a great baller. Like, you definitely have some skill. You belong here on this team.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on Inside the Dragon's Lair. Your journey has been a big part of this year's story at the school. We're proud to highlight your journey, and we'll be rooting for all of you as your journey continues. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, here to wrap things up, we're all in on the excitement of our men's basketball team as they gear up for a potential three-peat. We're honored to be joined by head coach Mike Smelkinson. Coach, welcome to Inside the Dragon's Lair.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a privilege to have you here, man. And what's been a big area of focus for your team so far?
Yeah, we got a lot of new guys on this team, and actually we've been focusing. That's been a big point of emphasis this year, is just staying focused on the task at hand, just trying to get better each day, whether that is at practice or in the weight room or at a game. And I think just sustaining our focus on all the different concepts that we're introducing to the guys as they get used to playing college basketball, a lot of newcomers, just staying locked in and focused on what the coaching staff is saying to the guys.
Word. And you got one of my boys from back in the day. Sebastian and I used to make a podcast here years ago. So how's it been having Coach Seb on the squad, man?
Yeah, it's great to have Coach Seb back with us, and we're happy to have him. He helps out in a lot of different ways, scouting upcoming opponents and in-game, keeping track of fouls and timeouts and things like that on the bench. And then also, at practice, motivating the guys, chiming in with little tidbits that help us. So happy to have Coach Seb along with Coach Wise, Coach Moraz, and Coach Harshman. We got a good staff and good players and a lot of potential.
And team chemistry is huge in all sports. How have you been working to build trust and chemistry among your players so early in the season?
Yeah, it definitely takes time. We're still getting used to one another as far as the teammates, understanding where guys' sweet spots are on the court. And then as a coach, trying to put them in the right positions so that we can highlight their strengths during games. And so as far as chemistry, we're getting better with that each day for sure. We've had a really tough out-of-conference schedule to start the season by design. And so, we've been put through the gauntlet early on, and I think that's the best way to do it because it makes us better when we get to region play.
Yeah, for sure, man. Forged by fire,
Yeah.
And with all these new kids on your team, it takes time to gel. So one reality of college sports, as you know, is that the roster changes from season to season. Players graduate, new talent comes in, roles shift. How do you maintain consistency and a shared vision even as your lineup evolves?
Yeah, I think that's where our culture comes in. Everybody that comes here to play at Howard for men's basketball, I'm asking three things of them, and they know what that is when they come in. And number one, that's that they are expected to go to class and do their work on time, right? Number two, we want to be the hardest working team. Each individual player should take pride in being the hardest worker on the team, right? And then if they are doing that individually, then no team can outwork us, and that's something that we can control. So I'm monitoring how hard we're working. I'm monitoring who's doing what they're supposed to do off the court. And then lastly, my expectation is that they are team players. And I get it. It's junior college, right? And so this isn't their last stop. They have aspirations of playing past Howard at a 4-year school and at a higher level, if you will. But their best chance of doing that is to have team success. And the only way you can have team success is to be a team player.
Like you said, it's the things that you can control. So with that roster shift, does your leadership style change depending on the group personality and experience level?
Yeah, I think it does. I'm a big believer in adjustments. You can't be stuck in your ways. The game has evolved. Players have evolved. It's on me and my staff to figure out what's clicking with the guys. And so, we need to change sometimes. If, something's not clicking, then we need to find another way to do it. Recognizing let's make an adjustment for the good of the team. And so I'm a big believer in that. But as far as last year, we were right there in the mix with top teams in the country. We lost in a 2-possession game to the national runner-up who lost by 1 in the national championship game in the second round. We know that, when we look at last year's team, which was completely different than this year's team, we were a very good defensive team last year in rebounding the ball. I think we were number 2 in the nation in defensive opponent field goal percentage, right? But we didn't really have high-powered scoring. This year, I do believe that we have more firepower on offense and more weapons across our roster. And if we can match the defensive style of play and mindset that we had last year and then add the firepower, we think that we can advance past the second round this year in the national tournament if we take care of business in the region. So,
like you said, man, one day at a time, and you'll have a target on your back right now. Everybody's coming for you, so continue to make those adjustments, and you guys can go far this year. So I'm pumped to see what happens. But one last question for you, Coach.
Sure.
If you can describe your team in one word this year, what would that word be?
That's a good question. I would say early on so far, I would say resilient. Again, we've had a tough schedule. We've had a couple injuries. So we're not going to make excuses. It's just going to be the next man up.
Mm-hmm.
And also we're deep. We have a deep team this year. We have 15 guys on the roster. All of them are capable of coming in and contributing to our team this year. And it's a good problem to have as a coach.
Yeah.
And then not only the 15, but we also redshirted a handful of guys who are also capable of playing, who will certainly make an impact next year as well. So the program's in a good standing. But most importantly, we're going to just try to get better every day moving forward.
I mean, that deep roster you have is a testament to your leadership and setting things up not just for today, but for the future. So, Coach, thank you so much for coming in today to share your time and insights, and we're all really excited to see how the season unfolds.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
And with that, we're wrapping up this episode of Inside the Dragon's Lair. We covered a lot today, and with basketball season heating up, there's plenty more to be excited about. Everyone involved is shaping the heart of Dragon Country. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected. You can find Inside the Dragon's Lair wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Dragon Podcasts. And don't forget to follow HCC Athletics and Dragon Podcasts on social media to keep up with our upcoming games, interviews, and behind-the-scenes moments. As always, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, right here on Inside the Dragon's Lair. This is Ryan Record, signing out.